Well, October is National Fire Prevention Month, and joining us with some guidance and from safety tips from, of course, fire do's and don'ts, and maybe some items in your home that may be causing some fire hazards. We've got Chief Tom Jenkins with Rogers Fire Department. Welcome, Chief.
Yeah,
honored to be here. No, enjoy it.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
Well, I feel very safe right now.
Right.
Good.
Yes.
This is just very heavy, FYI, for people out there.
Yeah, that's good to know. Chief, what items in people's homes could be fire hazards? What do we need to know about that?
Nearly anything can contribute to fires in residential settings, and people really just need to pay attention to overall cleanliness of a home. A lot of times clutter and things that accumulate can contribute to fires, and of course the most common place that we will encounter fires is in the kitchen. And so when you're cooking, you got to pay attention.
Okay.
Are there some must-dos or must-don'ts in the kitchen specifically?
Well, in the kitchen, keep kiddos out of it. Make sure that we're turning pot handles in. But more often than not, what we find is inattentive cooking, that we'll have somebody start something and they get distracted.
Sure.
And unfortunately, that has some dangerous consequences.
Yeah.
So it's
You're
paying
talking
attention.
to me right there.
I know.
I've got the TV on. I'm trying to figure out what's happening on my reality show, and I'm like, oh, man. That's bad.
Oh, man, I turned the oven on 3 hours ago, right? Like, that's a problem.
We see it. It's a common thing. So people just have to pay attention. A little bit of common sense goes a long way to fire prevention.
Okay.
That's
I
good
like
to know.
that.
What about, like, prevention checks that we can do? How often should we do those?
Well, that's a good question. You can always call your local fire department if you have some concerns that you wanted a professional to look at. But I would say that common sense, again, really plays into it. That if you look at overloaded electrical circuits and paying attention to those, the cleanliness of the home, of course, and just what's going on, with open burning, like candles. Are those being left unattended? All those things contribute. But the number one line of defense is a working smoke detector, and that's what we really need people at home to make sure they have handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk more about those smoke
sure.
detectors in your home. Most people, like, if you just moved into your home and there's a smoke detector in there, how often should we be checking those to make sure that they're up to date or that the batteries are all good to go?
Well, we used to say that you wanted to change the battery every 6 months. That when you change a clock, you change the battery in the smoke detector. Now we actually say they're 10-year detectors, and so we say every 10 years, and your detector would be marked. You want to replace that detector, even if it seems to be functioning okay.
Replace the full detector.
Replace the full detector.
Okay.
And that's the guidance we give now. But testing those as frequently as once a month is not a bad idea. A lot of times people encounter fire enough that they kind of dismiss it as a threat. But still about 3,000 people a year in this country will die from fires, most of them in their homes. That's more than all other natural disasters combined. So it's a threat. Smoke detectors, best line of defense.
Sure, absolutely. Good. I know some families out there may have this in place already, but would you recommend maybe having a fire plan for families to kind of practice in case there's a fire in the home?
Yes. The second ingredient to good fire safety is making sure that your family is prepared in case those smoke detectors go off, they encounter smoke, and that's simple, right? It's making sure that kiddos especially have an understanding of having two ways out of a bedroom, that they understand crawling low underneath the smoke, and that they know to get out and stay out. We don't go back in for toys or pets or anything else. You let the fire department do that and have a meeting place outside that we can quickly account for people.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm holding this very heavy fire extinguisher, of course, because it's also important to know if you have one in your home, maybe how to use this one. Of course, we won't let this one go off. But can you kind of show us what families need to know if they've got a fire extinguisher at home, kind of how to make this work?
Well, fire extinguishers are kind of a double-edged sword for the fire department. It's good to have the ability to extinguish a fire, but that should only be done by a trained adult.
Good to know.
What we really want to emphasize is getting out and staying out. We don't want to encourage people to fight the fire. If you do choose to do that, there's simple instructions. It's pulling this pin and it's aiming it at the base of the fire and quickly sweeping it left to right. But again, the best advice is don't mess with it. Let the professionals do it.
Call the pros.
Get out and stay out.
Yeah, that's a great tip right there.
Great tip right there, Chief Jenkins. Thank you so much for joining us
Thanks for having
all
me.
those tips.
Absolutely, yeah.